What if you could talk to a very intelligent LLM and you didn't have to pay any subscription fee or any API calling fee because you were running that open source LLM on your own PC or on your own system? So today, this is what we're doing today. We are building a Golang project that helps us talk to an existing LLM, open source LLM, on our own PC. So we built an interface around it. So here I am chatting with the LLM. So the chat title could be, let's say, personal. And then I have something called as a system message. This is optional. And in case you haven't worked with LLMs before, system message is basically a character or a personality that you can assign to the LLM, and it'll basically behave in that way. So it could be a finance expert or a psychiatrist or something like that. Basically, you tell it that you're this kind of an expert and you're supposed to reply in the context of that personality. So I'm going to leave it empty. I'm going to say it's anonymous chat. Okay, so I'll say yes, this is anonymous chat. So now it has given me a nice little UI, so I can chat with Tiny Llama. So Tiny Llama is the model that I'm using. Now there are any LLM that you can use from on your PC, but I'm using Tiny Llama because it's really small. It's just about 650 MB, and that means it's very easy to download, very easy to run, and inference is super fast. If I run like a 40 or 80 MB or GB model, it just becomes very slow, right? And if you haven't worked with LLMs before, you probably wouldn't realize that LLMs can go into terabytes or gigabytes and all that. But I want fast inference, so I'm just using Tiny Llama. It's a great model, super intelligent. So I'm going to ask you, ask this question: what is ask this llama, the model? Sorry, what is the meaning of life? And it's going to wait and then generate a very fast response, very fast, and I'm not paying for it. So it's a really nice answer. It's generating for me, and I'm not paying for it. It's completely free, right? And I can say, how old is God? That's my next question to Tiny Llama. And it's giving a nice answer, right? A very legit, very nice answer, very evaluated, balanced answer. And this is why I like Tiny Llama. It's very small, but it's also, the answers are just almost as good, in these kind of topics as probably ChatGPT, right? So this is what we're building. Now I'll take you through a small diagram on what we're building, and then we'll start going through the code, because I've already built this program. It's already available on my GitHub. You can check it out, fork it, start customizing it like the way you want it. With full disclosure, a lot of the code, like about 50 to 60% of the code of this project, is AI generated. This is a POC. This is not meant to be a production level application. The code will not be very human readable also, because it's generated by OpenAI in like 60% of the case. So this is just meant to be a POC. So in case you want to just learn how to do this, this is the right way. In case you're looking for a production level, very serious application, I recommend you check out my course, the AI plus Golang course. The link for that will be in the description of this video. That's the one you want to be checking out if you want to build production level applications. This is the project we're doing if you're just building a POC and you're completely fine with that. So at the base of it, we're using something called as Ollama. Okay, and Ollama is a very popular library. It just helps you download and run large language models. So the best way to install Ollama, in my opinion, is with this their shell install shell script. Okay, so you just run curl -fsshell and then their install shell script link. Okay, and that's just the best way, in my opinion. And obviously, before you run something like this, then you would do this, right? Apt update apt-get. So this is I'm sharing for Debian, and once you've installed Ollama, then you just check the version and you can run any model. So you can pull any model, but if you want to pull and run at the same time, almost like how we run Docker, is exactly the same thing. So you run the Tiny Llama model. So do this much, and you'll be up and running. The Ollama takes like 3 minutes to do this. So that's how you do it. And then the Ollama, the problem with Ollama is it helps you download the model, but what next? Like, what do you do after that? So in today's video, what we're going to do is we want to build a complete interface around it, right, using Golang. And that means it's going to have its own little database where we're going to store all the chats, right? That's what we'll be building. And we'll be having the ability to manage or interface with Ollama and manage our models and do all of that stuff. That's what we'll be building. And then we'll also be building the complete interface around it. That also we'll be building in Golang. And I'm going to be using something called as a TUI, or a terminal user interface. So it's like web UI, but much better because it's from the terminal. So you can do everything from the terminal now. And that's what's loved by all developers like you and me. You know, we love sitting on the terminal all day long. And this is perfect to build UI. So terminals are perfect to build UIs because we have this library called Charm Bracelets written completely in Golang. They have these multiple tools and you can build really nice stuff. So first thing I'm going to use is HUH, which are basically forms in the terminal. So I'll be able to build forms in the terminal. So you saw that it was asking me for the name of the chat, right, and all those things. So that was basically a form that I built with HUH. All right. Then I'm going to be using a little bit of bubble tea for these boxes. I'm going to be using lip gloss and bubbles also. So I'm going to be using multiple things from this library. Now, if you want to see how this library is used in depth in like a production level way, like a very serious way, then you, like I mentioned, you have to check out my course. This is the course, the Golang AI Masterclass. And in fact, today's project is a very, very scaled down version of my sixth project in that course. So there are 6 projects in that course. The 6th one is like a 9-hour video on just building a terminal AI assistant. We have used the hell out of Charm, and I've built like a very serious project there. So today's video is just a highly scaled down version of that, like a POC type of a version. So just to get your taste of it. And in that course, I've used OpenAI. Today we are just using a local LLM, right? So we're building a complete TUI-driven app to manage conversations with a local LLM. And like I mentioned, about 60% of the code is AI generated. So it would look a little bit off, but it's not very human readable in many cases, but that's okay because we need to make some sacrifices for more speed. But if you want, like I said, if you want the holy grail of the distillation of my entire Golang career and all the best quality code I could write, that's the one that's written in that 6th project, right? So that's the one you judge me on, not based on today's project. Today's project is just for YouTube only. And I'm going to explain the code and structure from a bird eye perspective to you since the project is already built. So you can find it on my GitHub. So my GitHub is Akhil Sharma 90. And the name of the project is Mini Local AI Clone, all right? So now I'm drinking pina colada that I made at home, okay? No alcohol, like a virgin colada, if you will. And it has two types of coconut milks and 2 types of pineapple juices, just like, you know, to create a very refreshing kind of a drink. If you're Indian or if you live in like the tropical climates, you will totally love something like this. The recipe of that I share in my other course, which is my the Golang Bootcamp course. So if you want the recipe for my pina colada, you want to check out that course. All right, and I also eat. So for Indians, they built a different Snickers. It's called Snickers Kesar Pista. So Kesar Pista is like this flavor that we really like. It's very good for the Indian palate. We love it. So I survive on a very nutritious diet of pina coladas and Kesar Pista Snickers. All right. Anyways, so this is what we're building, and yeah, we're using Charm Bracelet. Now let me take you through the code really quickly. And before I do that, I just want to show you that this is what the project will actually look like. So if you use Charm Bracelet, this is what it'll look like when you're using, this is that HUH being used. The demo I'd shown you was on this. So this is something called as the Cool Retro Terminal. I think that's the name. I'll drop a link to this also in the description. So everything just looks really nice in this. So this is like my default terminal now. This is what I use. This is like a CRT monitor, right? Retro hacker kind of look, and I can customize it also. So it has like multiple settings and I can customize it very nicely, so it's pretty awesome. But yeah, this is what it'll actually in reality look like. So just wanted to share that with you. And now let's look at the code. So this is what my project structure looks like. So I have the TUI file, I have Ollama Manager, main.go, generate and flags. These files are at the root location, and then I have an internal folder where I have some detailed stuff like how the chat will work, chat picker, client, all of that stuff, okay, utils, roles. Now the part that's AI generated is this file called chat.go. It's a huge file with a lot of code, like more than 1,000 lines of code. Now that's about 60% of the project, or I think lesser than 60% of the project, but this is what is AI generated. Now I don't use Cursor and Windsurf because it just takes away a lot of control from you. So it just starts generating the project structure and the files for you. What I do instead is I use ChatGPT or Claude, and I create the folder structure myself, and I decide which file should do what. Like I do a good amount of planning, and then I go to ChatGPT and I say, oh, look at this file you generate for me, and this is what it should do. So that's my workflow. That's just it saves me a lot of headache. Like I don't have to debug a lot later on. I just like it this way because I can then individually manage each file and then debug them and then bring it into my project. I don't want like a big mess project which like none of that works. That's like a big problem. And also now I've been doing this since more than 10 years, so I can use AI like and I don't apply to jobs anymore, right? So I use AI a lot, but to everybody else that I mentor, I tell them to not be overly dependent on AI, because when you go to interviews, you don't have access to Cursor or Windsurf or OpenAI, right? You don't have access to that. You have to actually physically write the code yourself. Even now in 2025, that's what you have to do. And I think that's the trend that's going to be in the future as well. So you don't want to be overly dependent on the plugins, okay? So just for the sake of this YouTube video, I'm doing it. Like that's how I've generated this code, but I don't endorse this, because if you're going for a very serious job, they would want you to be hands-on. So let's start from this file, which is in the internal API folder. It's called api.go. And here we are essentially working with Ollama. So Ollama is a library that's running on our PC, and based on that, and using Ollama, we're running an LLM. Now the way we talk to Ollama is using the Ollama API, and that's what we are defining here. So we're defining client from the environment and the Ollama API. Now using this is how we will structure our complete Golang project. Now using Ollama at the base, we have this Ollama manager file, which has, you can take multiple actions with Ollama. So you can install a model, you can manage a model, you can monitor a model. These are the things that we can do in our application. So we are defining those configurations, and in the main.go file, we are using those configurations with the Gollama config and parsing all those CLI arguments, and basically just running, basically just working with Ollama. That's what we're doing with main.go and Ollama manager files. Now an important file is the new chat.go file in the chat folder, and what you do here, you're using the HUH library that I showed you, and this is basically helping us generate a new form. So everything that starts when you start a new chat, like the chat title, the system message, everything that I showed you, like the anonymous chat, all of that is done with the help of HUH. So it could be a new text, new confirm, or new input. So that's all you have to do to be able to generate a complete form with the help of and then the form you can just run with the help of the run command, and that's all you do. And then we're just running the model manager at the same time. We talked about the model manager. So model manager is slightly different from the Ollama manager. In the model manager, you have the client and the base URL, and you can create a new manager. So it just helps you list the models. It helps you run the models. So listing the models and running the models. That's what functionality we have in manager.go. To define all the actions, I have the types.go file, which has all the actions like install, manage, monitor, update, delete, and chat. Now there is a response that comes back from Ollama, right? The final response, like once we have sent a prompt to the AI model, we get back a response, and that's how we're going to be showing. That's how we have the struct to define that response. There are two utils files. One is inside the model manager, which is like just barely like 10 lines of code if you remove all the spaces, and that's just printing the action result. That's all it's doing. Like actions by now are install, manage, monitor, update, delete, chat. So you take any of those actions. If you're not able to take those actions, you print the result if there's an error or if the action has started taking place. But the main utils file is here inside the utils folder. So utils file, this has a lot of stuff around printing the error. So you're using libgloss here, which is another library inside the charm bracelet, and this helps us to basically customize how things look. So we have our colors, we can put like foreground, background colors and all of that stuff. In the utils, we are also managing our white space options. We are defining how to render something, and we are defining where to place overlays, if any. So everything to do with the visuals, right? Getting lines, expanding the path, getting the image width. So everything to do with the visuals is in the utils.go file. And in the roles folder, there's just one file called roles.go. It has just three things. One is the system, which is a system message where you'll define that. User, whatever the user is going to enter as the prompt, and assistant, whatever the assistant replies back. So to handle that, we have these three different roles. The keys file in chat folder has all the key bindings. So now when you go back here, right, to the program, and when you run it, so you say go run, and let's say if I say control H, right? Sorry, if I write here personal blah 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 blah, and then how are you? I'll say yes, and I'll say, now before I write anything, I can just say control H, and this will give me the complete help menu, right? So this is a nice little overlay, kind of a pop-up that's opened up, and it's showing me all the key bindings for the help. So this is the help menu, right? And all the keys are binded here. So we are or bound here or binded here. I don't know what's the right word. I think it's bound, whatever it is. So you have up, down, half page up, half page down. Now English is not my first language, so I can get away with saying binded, even if it's not, even if it's not right. And then highlight next message and toggle image picker. So you have all of these different things for key bindings, and you have your up, down, half page up, all of that you've defined, quit, all of that you've defined here, and then your help and everything to do with help, basically help and the keys, right? So control H, and everything that shows up there, all the actions that take place here is there in the keys.go file. Chat picker has stuff around the list, model list, and what is the reason for your exit, and the selected chat that you are on currently, and you can update stuff, the logic to update stuff, view, and to also start a new chat. So a new chat picker, right? This is how you start off a new chat, and the logic for the form is in the new chat.go. So that's how they are linked. Now chat.go file is the file which has a lot of work around the chat itself. Like this like I said is AI generated 100%, and it has a lot of stuff which you wouldn't want to write on your own, like so many imports, and then defining all the types, defining all of the colors, defining all the notification styles, highlight styles, all of the stuff that you wouldn't want to write as a human being is all here. And all the stuff like how do you define the chat, what all fields it has, then all these long function, and especially stuff like this, right? All these runes, this is definitely what you don't want to be doing as a human being. So all of this is it's to do with the chat, basically. So everything from getting the chat message bubble to fix the markdown to update the viewport, all the little things related to the chat viewport basically is all here in the chat.go file. And it also has logic with what happens with control plus C or escape, so you can quit the chat, or what happens when you press control plus H, you can return the chat with help visible, and yeah, all of that stuff around all the keys, what should happen at each of those. And if you want to window size, change the window size, so you want to display some kind of message, so it has all of that logic also around the viewing the chat. Now chat.go file, I agree, is not extremely human readable, and that's completely okay. Like I said, it's AI generated, so sometimes when you want to build a POC, you can get away with just code that doesn't make much sense, like it's not very well ordered, but that's completely okay. It gets the work done for us, so that's good enough. Now coming to the most important file, which is client.go. Now this is the kind of code that you want to be writing as a human being. This is something you shouldn't be outsourcing to AI, which is to define the GoLlama struct, because this is where we want to be talking to the database, right? So I defined the chat, and obviously based on this is how I generated the chat structs in chat.go file. But anyways, so this is where you initialize the database, right? I'm using SQL3, and chats.db is where I'll be storing all the chats, and handling the SQLite, and then migrating script, and then initializing the database. So everything to do with the database, like connecting to the database, listing all the chats, previous chats, creating a new chat, okay, and writing all these insert into functions, and then deleting the chat. So I have these few functionalities for my database related stuff, because obviously whenever we have chats, as when you're chatting to our LLM, you want to store and you want to look at the chats, you want to delete and update all of that stuff. So all of that stuff is here in client.go. This is something that you want to be writing as a human being. Even if you want to generate So like I generated this whole file, but a little bit more stuff in some of the files is also AI generated. But this is something that you wouldn't want to outsource to AI, right? This is like the heart of the software, right? How the chats, because the UI part, right? Obviously, you're a backend engineer. You don't want to work with the UI. Completely understandable, right? You don't want to work with that charm bracelet, lip gloss, all of that stuff. Even though it's very interesting, you don't want to do it. Completely understandable. But the backend, the database operations, you'll have to do. You can't avoid that because that's where you can't have errors, right? In the UI, have as many errors as you want. Nobody cares, right? As a backend developer, nobody's expecting you to build a perfect UI, especially a terminal UI. So generate is the file where we ask Ollama to firstly initialize the API and then to generate. So if there's image data or generate request, like for example, which model, what is the prompt from the user, and if there's any image data along with it, and you want to generate a response using the Ollama API client. So this is what, this is like the heart of the software apart from the database part. So this is what is basically sending the request to Ollama and getting and via the Ollama to the LLM and getting the response generated. So TUI.go file is the entry point to our software. So this is where we initialize our database, we close the connection to the database once this function stops, because I'm using defer. And then this is also where I list my chats, and I have my exit reason. If I'm exiting, what's the reason why I'm exiting? So I can switch between different exit reasons like error, cancelled, all of that stuff. I can delete the chat itself, and yeah, so it has all of that, and then the new Ollama API connecting to the Gollama instance, and then selecting that part where it's anonymous or not. So starting an anonymous chat. So all of that basically is in the TUI.go file. So with this, we have gotten a bird's eye view of what each of the files do in the project. And in case you want to understand better and in more in depth, then you can just load this project into your cursor, chat with the project, and understand in more depth. But this is what it's doing, like from a bird eye perspective. And if you want to start off and start talking to an LLM, you can just pull any LLM that you want from Ollama. So Ollama has a list of all the latest LLMs that are there, and start chatting with them using this Golang project. So this is how we've done it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll build something interesting like this in the next video as well. I have a list of very small, multiple small Golang projects which use AI, and I want to show them to you in one of the upcoming projects. So I'll see you, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.